Coming up on this episode of The Barbershop, we get right to it. Deshaun Watson is not playing like the guy we thought he would, but I'm going to tell you why. If you want him to play better, you got to look to Baker Mayfield. I'll explain what I'm talking about coming up next on this episode of The Barbershop. Into the barbershop. I'm your boy G Bush. If you've been wondering where I've been at, your boy came down with COVID. By the way, COVID is still alive and well out there. Make sure you guys are going to get vaccinated. Make sure you guys stay out of the way. It is popping back up. So if you're wondering where I've been at, I've been on quarantine with me and my wife, and I won't be back on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show until Monday. And I will be missing my radio show this week. So what I wanted to do is I just want to jump in. I'm doing a lot better. Still trying to, you can tell I'm a little stuffy. So what I'm trying to do is just jump on and give you guys a little something to chew on, because I thought this was very important, one of my most important blogs. When you look at what's going on with the Cleveland Browns and you watch what's going on with Deshaun Watson, I've been thinking in my head about how we go about to fix what's going on with the offense and fix what's going on with Deshaun Watson. Because here's the truthful part about it is, it's very hard to move on from a guy, and I don't even think you should be talking about moving on from a guy this early in the process, right? I think it's 7 games or something like that. But here's the thing. The first thing I want to you put out there is Deshaun Watson is not playing well. He's not playing like the guy he used to play like, and that's just the first and foremost thing that you got to throw out there. You know me, I'm not a sugarcoat type guy. He's just not playing well. He's not seeing the field well. He's not comfortable in the pocket. And besides that, I think Coach Stefanski is not comfortable as well. I think what he's trying to do with Deshaun Watson is not natural in his mind. That's not his plan of attack. That's not his style of play. So right now, overall, what you see is offensive linemen not comfortable, receivers uncomfortable, quarterback uncomfortable, and your play caller uncomfortable. So you say, G Bush, how do we fix this? How do we get this offense back on track? Or is it fixable? Does the coach got to go? Do we need another quarterback? What is the situation? So what I've been doing is I've been looking around and I've been taking a look at a lot of different other quarterbacks and just thinking outside the box. And for this blog, suspend, the whose fault is it, right? Rock with me and vibe with me on a level of just talking about football, talking about X's and O's, and talking about scheming and game planning to see if you can float where I'm going with this. Now, when you see the thumbnail, you see Baker Mayfield, you say, okay, where is he going with this situation? And I tell you, one of the things that we have to do is we have to examine the passing attack first and foremost overall. We'll get to the Baker versus Deshaun comparison the very end. So please stick with me to the very end of this video, because I think it's some fruit that is a tree that will bear some fruit later on in the podcast. So you're not going to get anything too inflammatory from me on this one. This is just all about a thinking exercise and judging and questioning whether or not we're seeing the offense of the NFL correctly and what plays and different things that they can do to make Deshaun Watson a better quarterback for the Browns to reach their ultimate goal. So first and foremost, let's start with this. I think that we've been told a lie. I think we've been really sold a bill of goods that we've all kind of took for granted. And one of the things that we've taken for granted is that passing the ball in the NFL is the only way in which you can win big time. Passing heavy in the NFL is the way that you get to the Super Bowl and win. And I think winning with heavy passing attacks is just extremely rare. And you go back and you look at throughout the annals of history, go out through the annals of time, and look at the teams that have won Super Bowls. I think the recency bias of Patrick Mahomes has screwed up a lot of people. Patrick Mahomes is a one of one, right? Patrick Mahomes is a 101. And when you take Patrick Mahomes and what you say is he has the best arm, he has the most arm talent, this guy can throw sidearm, all these different things. Yes, that is true. All those things are true. But I think the one thing that we discount is this. When you pass the ball, you become one-dimensional. And if you want to pass the ball, you want to become one-dimensional, that's fine. But you have to be able to have a game plan and a signal caller that does small, subtle things and big things to trick people into believing that you're going to do other things. They package it the best. Andy Reid is able to package it the best. Because one thing that you don't want to do in the league now is become one-dimensional, and defensive coordinators know what you're going to do. So Andy Reid is able to be an exceptional play caller because he knows what he wants to do, and he knows what little decoys and little offshoot things that you have to do to throw people off. Because if Andy Reid was not there and you just still had Patrick Mahomes, I don't think they win championships like that. Don't get it twisted. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best to do it. But you cannot simply get the ball in shotgun and throw the ball every play. It does not work. And the reason it does not work is because the league is changing every 1 to 2 years. That's another point that we talk about. We talk about the old Deshaun Watson and going back to that. That's 3 years ago. No one's mentioning this. That's, man, I mean, you 25. How many of us were 25 a couple of years ago and you could drink and still go out and go to work the next day? I was baffled. It was always miffed by the fact that when you were younger, the days that working adults were going out is Tuesday. Like, I went to Charlotte and they're like, hey, you want to go out on a Tuesday? Tuesday nights are jumping, man. And I'm like, Tuesday nights? Bro, I'm still trying to get acclimated to getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning, going to work every single day, putting a suit and tie on. You talk about y'all is actually out there going out drinking and then going to work? It's crazy. 3 years is a long time. And I think some of the things that we're seeing, and this is a foreshadowing for one of our other segments that we'll talk about later on today, is those 3 years, in 3 years, a lot of things can happen. A lot of things can happen in 3 years. Have you ever seen somebody you graduated with and then you see them again 3 years later and you're like, what the heck happened to you? Bro, you was always the guy that was doing cardio, playing volleyball and always small, and now you same size as me? It's a lot. Things can happen in 3 years. You can have a kid in 3 years. It's a lot of different things. And so when the league changes in 3 years, and now teams have 3 or 4 good corners. Teams have 3 or 4 good corners. Teams got guys that are pass rush specialists. Now you couple the fact that you sat out a little bit of time. Maybe you're not as good an athlete as you was before. Now some of those little scramble drills you could have got out of and moved, maybe you're not breaking those tackles. Maybe you're getting clapped in the ankles. Maybe you're getting tackled because your speed and agility is diminished a little bit. Not to say, this is what is going on, but let's be clear. I've had 2 ACL surgeries, right? One of my ACLs is great. The other one, Deshaun Watson has had 2 ACL surgeries. That means you're going to always worry about the flexibility. You're going to worry about arthritis. You're going to worry about deterioration. So 3 years, not only could the league change in a way that they're trying to stop mobile quarterbacks, but also you may have taken a step back a little bit and you don't recognize it. 25 and 28 is different things. So I say that to say this. Go back and look at all of the teams that have played and had great passing attacks. The Houston Oilers of the days of the old AFC Central. Go back and look at 4 straight Super Bowl losses by the Buffalo Bills. Go look at some of these teams that are throwing the ball. Somebody might say, the people, G. Bush, what about the 49ers? 49ers was West Coast. 49ers was West Coast. It wasn't a vertical passing game. It was get rid of the ball quick, 1, 2, 3 step drop, throw the ball. The West Coast offense is an extension of the running game. The short pass took over for the running game. So as you can see, that was the innovation of that. So that's why that is different when I talk about heavy passing attacks. The Atlanta Falcons, even some of the teams that you see, when we talk about right now, If you go back and look at the Buffalo Bills, I've seen 2 games. I saw the game against the Jets where Josh Allen was trying to be Superman and he threw 3 interceptions that cost him the game. The very next game, what happened? Let's come back. Let's run play action. Let's get you back on schedule. Let's get back to the back drop, the 3-step drop, throwing the ball on timing, ready, and within rhythm. And guess what? The Bills look like a much better team and they win that game. I think sometimes we've been sold that unless you are out here throwing the ball 75% of the time and you got 3 receivers with 1,500 yards, that you're not going to win in this NFL. They've gone so far against running backs that all of a sudden you can't win by giving the ball a running back. And I'm afraid that with the Cleveland Browns, we're going to figure out and find out just what was the catalyst for making that offense work with Nick Chubb. Some of us was telling you that Nick Chubb is making a lot of guys look better than what they are. Nick Chubb makes your play calling look better. Nick Chubb makes your offensive line look better because he's making the first guy miss. He's going to make another guy miss in the secondary. He's going to make the pile lean. He's going to lean forward, get you 3 yards that you didn't think. How many runs did you have where he was stopped in the backfield, but now he can continue to run? He makes those guys miss and gives you 3 instead of 0. I think it's a copycat lead, and I think one of the things that you're telling us is we got to throw the ball, we got to throw the ball, we got to throw the ball. Well, listen, there's about 7 or 8 things that can happen wrong on the pass. It's not that many can happen on the run. And when I see Deshaun Watson and when he's dropping back and he's not getting to his back foot on throwing on time, he's not in rhythm. He's not he's not comfortable in the pocket. He's not, a lot of his stuff is scramble drill. You can't depend on a steady dose of scramble drill. Scramble drill is like empty calories if you're trying to be a bodybuilder or you're lifting weights. Yeah, that's cool. You could drink all that pre-workout routine stuff, but all that is sugar, empty calories, right? Where you get your nutrition from is the steady diet of meat, potatoes, carbs, all that good stuff, eating right, eating lean. That's how you get your workout in. Can you do that for a while when you're younger and eat bowls of cereal and stuff like that? Sure. But that stuff catches up with you. And scramble drill is just like that. All that extending play stuff and working outside of the spreadsheet of what you're trying to do, that sounds awesome. But that is going to come back and bite you one day because your metabolism ain't going to be that high. And that's just, you can't live off that and be successful because you're counting on too many variables. Receivers got to see you and sit down, and offensive linemen and everybody else is holding this stuff. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that too. But when you do that, scramble drill and work it outside the confines of the offense and extending plays, put stress on every other unit and group. That's just what it is. Let's continue to move on. I'm sorry to say it, but this is not inflammatory. This is not something to be said like we knocking the Browns or something. This is something I've always worried about. When I was one of the person that said I would like DeAndre Hopkins, I was one of the people that said I would like Jerry Jeudy. And where I'm going to go with this, bear with me. This ain't a knock. Take all the emotion out of it and just sit there for a second and try to see where I'm going with this. If you want to have a vertical passing attack and you want to be a team that is special at doing that, you have to have certain archetypes. You have to have a big body receiver. When I say big, I ain't talking 6'2", 6'4", 6'5". Now, the Browns have one in Cedric Tillman. He's young. We don't know if he's any good. But you got to have a big body guy. Somebody that you can play jump ball with, somebody that's a mismatch on the field. When you look at that Pittsburgh Steelers tape, there was nobody on that field that was a mismatch. And for a long time, the Browns have always seemed like they're playing the game of football in a phone booth where every throw is tight, every throw is contested, every throw is somebody hanging on somebody. When's the last time you've seen somebody streaking open, catching the football and scoring? It just doesn't exist for the Browns. It just doesn't. The last guy, I think Travis Benjamin used to streak open sometimes. Obviously, Josh Gordon used to streak open sometimes. But I'm going to just keep it real. Let me just be honest with you. None of that, right, is what we see today. Amari Cooper is a great possession receiver. I thought he played very well against Pittsburgh. He does what he does. Donovan Peoples-Jones usually is a reliable receiver, but the problem with Donovan Peoples-Jones, he gets no separation. And we're starting to see a little bit what's wrong with Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore does not have a really big catch radius. You have to be pinpoint accurate when you're throwing the ball to Elijah Moore because he does not have a great wingspan. He's not a guy that's going to go up and vertically contest any of the plays. He's not a jump ball guy. So you got to really work to get Elijah Moore the ball, and it's this minimal. There you saw on the sideline, 2 or 3 inches here or there cost the difference between a completion or a non-completion. And that is because of his size. Elijah Moore, yes, can play outside. The problem with that is there's very, very little room for error. And one of the things that Deshaun Watson has struggled with, even coming out of Clemson, is accuracy. We'll go back and talk about that a little bit as well. Take a little bit about that as well, because we got to actually talk about what his skill set is. But when you talk about it, the Browns don't have game changers at wide receiver. The Browns don't have a game changer at receiver. Or at tight end. And David Njoku was a great athlete. But for all of you guys that see David Njoku when he does get the ball, he's not a quick twitch guy. David Njoku's not quick twitch. When David Njoku gets the ball, it takes him extremely long amounts of time to get ramped up and get downfield. He's very long. You can tell he's a high jumper. He's very long. His strides are very long, and it takes a long time for him to get revved up. That's why on any of those plays that Kevin Stefanski are throwing, the tight end screens or the tight end reverses, it takes him. He gets tackled immediately. It's because he's not a quick twitch athlete. Yes, he might run a 4.6 because of or 4.5 because of his stride length, but when it comes to moving in space, cutting, diving, juking, moving, making guys miss, that's not his game plan. So you don't have a big body receiver. You do have a guy in Marquise Goodwin who's a burner, but they use him in completely wrong packages. Every time he comes into the game, they know you're going deep, and he's double covered. If you're going to use him as that, you have to set that up. Once again, going back to what Andy Reid does. What is your play to set it up, Kevin Stefanski? You can't just put him out there and say run deep. What's the setup to that? And as a setup is just not one play. A setup might be something first through third quarter. First through third quarter, I'm going to work a progression with Marquise Goodwin. And the third thing is he has to be in the game more than the plays the 12 handful of plays. That's not going to work. You're not fooling anybody with that. So the Browns want to be something. They want to be a vertical passing team. They want to be a vertical passing team because they've told you that's what you have to be to win. I don't necessarily believe that. They want to be a vertical passing team because they look around the league and everybody else is moving, and maybe Josh Allen and Burrow and all those guys. That's what we need to do. But guess what? You don't have the horses to run that. And on top of that, your O-line struggles in pass protection. How are you going to consistently go out in 5 wide, which you want to make your bread and butter, Coach Stefanski, if you got a tackle in Jedrick Wills that should have been cut weeks ago? He is not a professional left tackle. Let's be clear. DeJuan Jones struggles in the run game, but he's a better pass protector than him. Let's talk about Wyatt Teller. He's not a great pass protector. Ethan Poaches had holding calls. Your team is built to be maulers and brawlers, guys that can keep guys in middle of the field and pound them with the run game. Pound them with the run game, and then play action off that. Now that slows the rush down. You can get off deep passes off play action because now that rush is slowed down. But you're not elite enough to come out with guys that are not difference makers vertically on offense and receiver or tight end, and then still come out in 5 wide and expect your offensive line to be able to block and pass block and hold up 5 seconds with a quarterback that doesn't see zone coverage well, that does not feeling the pressure well, and is not seeing the field correctly. That means you can't run 5 wide. That means you're not a vertical team, and that means you should be running things that are conducive to being successful with the pieces and parts that you have. It ain't rocket science. It's just not. It's not. I sat up in my room And I just was thinking like, okay, well, what do they want to do? What do they need to be doing? How do they need to be winning and be successful? The first thing is playing to your personnel. And the second thing is being authentic to yourself and being truthful with yourself and evaluating who you do have on the field. Evaluating who do you have on the field and what are their skill sets. And that brings me to this. We talked about the receivers, smallish receivers. David Bell is small. Elijah Moore is small. DPJ is okay, but he's not really big. He's not really small. Not a burner. The best receiver you have is Amari Cooper. He's nowhere near a burner, but he knows how to run routes and get open. So if you want to run a deep vertical passing attack and you don't have a difference maker, you don't got a DK Metcalf, you don't have a Stephon Diggs, you don't have those guys on your roster, what are we doing then? What you need to be doing is running underneath routes, sit down game, deep comebacks, digs, maybe sneaking a post on a double move off play action, but all of that lining up in 5 wide stuff gotta go. And if we could talk about their skill set, Cleveland Browns fans are figuring out what Deshaun Watson's really his skill set is. Now, when you get a player, what happens is you get a player for somebody else. The Texans fan base has been watching Deshaun Watson for 4 years as they drafted him. And one of the things that we could take in consideration of is this. We don't know. We could tell you all about Baker Mayfield. We can tell you what his ups, what his downs is. We could tell you what his warts are. We could tell you why what he's going to look like when he's having a good game, what he's going to be when he has a bad game, what his strengths, weaknesses are, where does he get in trouble, what does he struggle with. We can tell you all that because we drafted him and we were invested in him. But Deshaun Watson, we did not draft it. So therefore, there's a lot of things in his game we overlook. I go back and take a look at what Mel Kiper and Todd McShay say about his game, not to say that's the end-all be-all because they missed 2. But the knock on Deshaun Watson coming out of college was the fact that his accuracy, right? The knock on Deshaun Watson was he misses some throws. He's kind of erratic a little in the pocket, but his saving grace was the fact that he was a leader of men and was one of the best leaders college football has ever seen. And when you do have that could elevate you some. Now, the problem with Deshaun Watson is the same thing that they told, the same thing that they said that was a positive or a bonus for Deshaun Watson, we have not seen. When Nick Chubb goes down, we need somebody to take the mantle, take the reins, take the whatever it is, and like Alexander the Great says, lead from the front. Watch me do it. If you want people to be flawless, you have to be flawless. Meaning if you don't want your offensive lineman not to hold, you can't have face mask penalties. If you want your offensive lineman to be, and your receivers to be cognizant of what's going on in the time, understanding the place on the field, you can't have personal fouls. If you want your receivers to catch the ball like David Njoku, catch the ball, be able to punt the ball away and play field position game, then you can't fumble twice in the middle of the field. All those things are leadership things, right? Now, is it all to blame on him? No. But that's why you get the big money. That's why you got the captain. That's why you get the seat. So what is exactly Deshaun Watson's skill set? Now, trust me, this is not a knock on him. Not a knock at all. But let me walk through this and try to just see where I'm coming from with this so you can have an idea or a picture where I'm coming from so you can say, you know what? I never thought about it like this. Okay, so let's start. Deshaun Watson's arm. Does he have an Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes cannon? I mean, when I mean cannon, I mean zoop. Like when I'm deep out, deep comeback, that ball is moving. Boom. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about touching that ball. That's hot. That's hot out the oven. Does he have one of those arms? No. It's not. He has a good arm. You can win with a good arm. You can win with a good arm, but it ain't no AK-47. It ain't no howitzer. It ain't no like known to be one of the guys that can really put it on somebody like that. When you look at Josh Allen or you look at Aaron Rodgers, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, they got specifically great arm talent. Great arm talent. He has good arm talent. It's not exceptional. It's good. You can win with good. All right? When you talk about his accuracy, right? Is his accuracy like a Brady or a Breeze or a Montana? No. To be truthful, his accuracy is maybe above average. That's a problem at some places. But I believe that when Deshaun Watson is on, he has good accuracy. When he's on and he's seeing the field well, good accuracy. So think about it. Good arm strength, above average to good accuracy. Okay, let's keep moving. All right, what about elusiveness? Now, when I look at elusiveness, is Deshaun Watson a good athlete? I would put him at a very good athlete. He's a very good athlete. But when you talk about top end speed, when you talk about whether or not he's elusive to the point where you just don't even think about tackling him, I don't think that's there. I think he's a very good athlete. However, when you take years off of that, 25 elite athlete is different because now you have a little more burst. I don't think he has the same level burst. When I go back and watch, and I'm watching these games, he does not have the same level burst that he did when it comes to turning the corner, after making a guy miss, keeping his eyes downfield, all those different things. But that also goes into the perspective of when I think of elite, it's the Lamar Jacksons of the world. I think of when you talk about being able to move and get out the pocket and do his thing. Obviously, Mike Vick comes to mind. A young Russell Wilson comes to mind. All those things. But as far as the elite part of like being able to make guys miss, I don't think he's that big. Like he's not a guy that people are going to say, "Oh my goodness, you better not let him run because he could go." He's not one of those guys. He's still a good athlete. So now do the math. Good arm strength, average to good accuracy when he's on. At one point, I would have thought that he was one of the more elite guys and making guys miss, and open field ability as far as being mobile. I think he's just good now, right? So that's good. Now we go to the big one. Is your intangibles, your leadership quality, your heart. Just understanding the moment of the game, like he was in college when he was playing with Alabama. Understanding what it is. Understanding that I got to make a play today, and when the game is on the line, I'm the best. I'm a 99. When it's in practice, I might not be a 99 in practice, but when this game is on the line, I'm going to make that throw. I'm going to make this first down, and it don't matter. You can't buy that, and that's the part that really gets us all. We haven't seen that. We have not seen that. So when you look at the skill set, is he a better player than Baker Mayfield? Yes, in all of those categories. I also think he throws a better deep ball as well. We forgot one category: processing. The ability to process fast data quickly while things are moving all around you, and you got to make a split-second decision. At this point, his diagnosis is the same as Baker's. Diagnosis and ability to diagnose defenses, what they're trying to do to him, I believe is right. It's below average. It's not even average. At this point, it's below average. Go back and watch when Baker struggles. Go back and watch when he struggles, when they start giving him different looks like zone coverage and he has to anticipate. Look what Deshaun Watson does. When you get in the shotgun and you have to throw the ball, that eliminates all else. That pretty much eliminates the run game. So when you're doing that 50 times a game, you got to be perfect. You got to diagnose exactly what the defense is doing to you. You got to the receiver has to diagnose and see the same defense that you saw. Then he has to run the accurate route that breaks off of what he's supposed to do according to the coverage. Deshaun Watson has to throw with anticipation and throw to a spot, even though the guy might not be open, in between small windows and zones. Not to mention, he has to figure out where the rush is coming from. On top of that, he has to have his mechanics be straight. On top of that, he got to worry about Jedrick Wills and his defensive end beating the brakes off him. And then you still got 4 other things that can go wrong. Tip passes at the line of scrimmage, a tip by the defensive deflection. Maybe you threw the ball that was behind the guy. Maybe you threw a great ball and it just popped off his hands. You get an interception. The receiver could drop it. He could catch it and still fumble. Think about all of the bad things that can happen. That's why when I say they've lied to you, because it takes so many things to go right. The margin for error when you are a passing team is this small, razor thin. And when you're asking your team to do that, you first have to assemble the talent. Then you have to evaluate whether or not your quarterback and the surrounding parts can do it. And I just don't think the Cleveland Browns have those parts. So that moves us to this. What exactly, G. Bush, is what do you say? How do you fix this? And it comes down to the thumbnail. I believe the most efficient offenses run some form of the Baker Mayfield playbook. That playbook gives you the most opportunity to win and to decrease errors in your tertiary parts around with your receivers, the complementary parts at tight end, and the guys up front. When you run that playbook, the reason why it's sort of successful, even though it's not very, I would say, innovative, it's because you're minimizing the downsides to what bad things can happen during the play. When you are running play action pass, you're not worried about your receivers being super wiggly at the top of their routes. You're not worried about how receivers can make back shoulder catches. You're not worried about can your tight end, check and move and create separation on linebacker or safety. You're worried about that play action fake takes a lot of those guys out of the play. That play action fake gives you 2 or 3 steps that you don't have when people know you're running routes. That play action fake slows the rush down. So Jed Wills does not need to be upfield. Jed Wills can have an opportunity to block. It gives your offensive lineman an opportunity to really be dominant because now they control the energy. They're not sitting back there like a sitting duck. Trust me, when it's 3rd and 15, and you sitting back in that kick slide and you got guys showing blitz, plus you got TJ Watt. That's advantage Pittsburgh. But when it's 3rd and 3 and our running game has been working, our quarterback has been getting rid of the ball, 1, 2, 3, boom. 1, 2, 3, boom. Now all of a sudden, I got the advantage because now I can fire it out on you and you think it's run, but it's an RPO, right? It's the Baker Mayfield playbook. And some variation, because there's lots of variation. To me, and it took me some time to come to the fruition of it. See, when you're in the industry a lot, sometimes you take a lot of this stuff and you internalize it and you start to think in a way that doesn't make logical sense. If I'm a player and I'm a football player and I understand that how difficult it is to stop the run, and that's the predication of what defense is. I understand how frustrating it is and devastating it is to work your butt off all day long against a tackle. You hit your best move. You got a wide open hit on the quarterback, and he gets rid of it just before you get there. You work all day to set that move up. You worked all afternoon getting double teamed, stopping a run to get that one opportunity, and you don't get the sack. I understand that. And so when I'm looking at it, it's very easy. There's more room for error in that playbook. It's less guesswork. And when you don't have elite receivers that are going to make guys look silly, make contested catches, or run away from people because they got that top end speed, you got to give them something that they can work with. Play action, crossing routes. I'll hit you in a deep end comeback route. Maybe we'll hit you in a post, maybe. That's where you should be at. And the problem is, and the ironic part is, That's what Kevin Stefanski does best. And for those that'll say, come on, G. Bush, you can't win that way. If Baker couldn't run that, why would you think Deshaun Watson can do the same thing and win at the high level? Because of this. The Cleveland Browns have, I believe, a top 3 defense. And when you have a top 3 defense, you set yourself up for an opportunity to run a playbook like that and to be successful. The only problem that I have right now is the special teams. You have to have the top 5 defense mixing with the special teams so you can play the field position game. As you can see, the Browns had the game won. But what happened? You got back in 5 wide. Jet Wills couldn't cover TJ Watt. They stripped the ball, picked it up, and went to the end zone. The defense didn't cause you the game. The offense did. The offense did that because they were trying to be something they weren't. Now, if we could get somebody back there to field punts instead of giving away all this field position DPJ, and we could get it to a point where I thought our punter played a really good job. I thought he did a really good job. If we could not miss our field goals and we could play that level of defense, you can win football games because the skill set of Deshaun Watson is better than Baker Mayfield. So when things broke down for Baker, because he wasn't athletic enough on the bootlegs, because he couldn't see over the line of scrimmage, because he got balls not batted down, because he wasn't very accurate. All of these things you could take advantage of because when you go by skill set to skill set to skill set, Deshaun Watson is an upgrade over Baker Mayfield, and he was successful running. So if you do have that, the times that Baker is going to be not going to be successful, the skill set, the improved skill set of what Watson can do will then transform that mundane playbook into something that can really be dangerous. So when you look at the Baker Mayfield playbook, don't look at the Baker Mayfield playbook in terms of saying that this is end all be all. This is the only thing we're going to do and it's limited. No. If you apply that playbook and you put a quarterback in that playbook, you'll still be successful. If you have Aaron Rodgers in his heyday, you can run anything you want to. If you got Tom Brady in his heyday, you can run everything you want to. It don't matter if you was running base. That's why Tom Brady was so successful and winning in all types of different offenses, whether it was 2 tight ends with Hernandez and Gronkowski, whether it was coming up with Julian Edelman and Wes Welker, throwing the ball underneath, whether it was throwing deep balls with Randy Moss. He was good enough to run all of those different plays and different things like that. It's not the playbook. It's the people that's executing the playbook. And I understand, and I'll leave you with this commentary. The first time I ever bought a car that people would say would be expensive or a luxury vehicle, it changed the way I thought about certain things. See, I had a Mitsubishi Galant. I came out of a divorce. I inherited the car that had 175,000 miles on it and was paid off. I took it because it was paid off and then divorce settlement. Let me take that. I'll take that immediately. And when you have a car like that and you don't have a payment, you're fine with the car breaking down sometimes. Maybe it's overheating and you go get a new radiator. Maybe you need new brakes, so you go ahead and do it. Maybe you need a new battery because the starter's messed up. It hurts, but it don't hurt that much because you know you're not going to pay no monthly payment. You understand it has 175,000 miles and it then got you through a lot of stuff. So you're like, listen, all right, I'll pay 200 here, 300 here, whatever the case may be. But when that car finally died and I went to get another car, and it was the first time being 40-some years old, I said, man, I didn't always have beaters. I didn't have this. Let me go get me a nice car. I want a nice car for once. And so when you get a nice car, that's called a nice car payment. And something happened to me. I got that car, and then within the first, 3-4 months, it was fine. Come up, 4th month, come in the winter, all of a sudden, I'm like, why is this thing overheating? Now, I had a different perspective. I'm paying all this money per month. I'm like, this is more money than I ever spent. This is a mortgage payment. In my mind, when you start paying $600, $700, whatever the case is for a car payment, you know what you expect? You expect that car to start up every single time. You don't want to hear nothing about no oil changes, nothing. You think that car could go to Baghdad and back. And that boy better be bulletproof and cross the Atlantic Ocean with no problems, right? Because you're paying for it now. That price in your head is the only thing you see. And you think it's the most I've ever spent for anything. You know what? It better work. But you know what? That's faulty thinking. It doesn't matter how much you pay for the car. Doesn't matter what the car looks like on the outside. Doesn't matter if it's a luxury vehicle or it's an old beater that you got down for at a auction. Cars are cars, and they're all gonna break down. Don't matter if it's a Lexus, a Range Rover, a BMW, a Bugatti, whatever it is. They're gonna break down just like them Mitsubishis, them Toyotas, them Chevys, them Hondas. They're gonna break down. But here's the point. Quarterbacks are the same way too. Just because you paying Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed, don't mean that quarterback is coming hot and fresh out the oven, ready to go, and don't break down. All quarterbacks break down. All quarterbacks need maintenance. All quarterbacks need readjusting, recalibration. And right now, Deshaun Watson needs a recalibration. It don't matter if it's 230. You still going to have to take it to the gas station. You still going to have to take it to get a tune-up. You still got to take it over here. And what you need to do is understand that just because it's that 230, maybe he not a 230 that can throw the ball downfield every play. We fooled ourselves into thinking that that's what it was supposed to be. Maybe it ain't. Maybe just because you came from a traditional playing space and you was throwing the ball like that before, maybe that's not exactly what you should be doing to optimize your success. And so for me, if you want for Deshaun Watson to get back to where he's gone, start doing some of the same things that you was doing with Baker Mayfield. Everybody likes an easy throw. Everybody likes where I could get to my back feet and throw the ball and do some things. Everybody loves that. Not just the quarterbacks that have limited skill sets. Because if I could get that confidence back, if I could run them plays and continually to move the sticks, you can lean on your defense and you can build on that confidence level with Deshaun. You can always build on your playbook. You can always throw new wrinkles in. But first, you got to get your offensive line comfortable enough to understand that they can protect. You got to get your receivers comfortable enough to run the routes and expect the ball to be on them so they can catch the ball and move. And you got to have your quarterback to be able to throw with anticipation if it's zone, if it's man, fire zone, blitz, whatever the case may be. And to start doing that, you got to play to your strengths. It all comes back to that, Kevin. What's your thoughts? Put the comments down in the comment section. What do you think? I think that this is the best playbook to run. I think it gives you the best latitude. And if you really seriously think about it, ask yourself, how many heavy vertical passing teams have won Super Bowls, and how easy is that to duplicate? Because you got to have the signal caller, you got to have the receivers, and you got to have the quarterback. And it's very difficult to do at a high level. With that being said, I want you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow your boy G Bush. Make sure you hit that like button. Share this. Let's run these numbers up on this. And as always, you know what it is. It's your boy G Bush. You don't ever know where I'm going to be at. Just listen for the Clippers. Peace.